बैकग्राउंड लगाओगे कुछ?
A very good afternoon to everyone. Today we'll be discussing about sociology and its linkage with other social sciences. Well, we live in an Indian society, and society in general connects a human being to various aspects. Now, what could be those aspects? Those aspects include a political life, economic life, yes. So I was talking that any society links a person to various aspects, and those aspects are economic life of a human being, political life of a human being, and the social psyche of a human being, how they all think. So when you live in a society, a man is linked with various aspects. One could be economic aspect, political aspects, psychological aspect. Okay. So basically, if we study sociology, it's not about the social aspect only. It's about linking social aspects with various subjects. Now you must be thinking how economic or how economy is related to sociology. Now if you could relate, Durkheim gives theory of division of labor. So for all those who are beginners or who have no idea about sociology, when you study sociology, then you study about Durkheim and his theory of division of labor. So division of labor. Now labor and division cover the economic aspects. Political aspects, we talk about gender budgeting. Now see, budgeting, gender. Now gender is a social concept, budgeting is an economic concept, and gender budgeting is a political concept. So the reason why I am giving you all this example is because I want to tell you all that how a human being is attached to various other subjects. So when you study sociology, it's not about only society, it's not only about various aspects of society, that is religion, caste only. All these are the aspects that links you to society and helps you in making a holistic individual. Okay. Now, if I move ahead in a subject or in a syllabus, it talks about sociology and other social sciences. Now, social sciences, it's history, it's economy, it's politics, anthropology, it's psychology, it's common sociology and common sense. So, by the time today, I will discuss about sociology and anthropology. Now, as much as everyone knows, everyone will say that anthropology itself is a big subject. Yes, correct. I don't deny the fact that anthropology is a subject in itself, but there's a vast linkage between sociology and anthropology. So, sociology talks about society, society where we live, where we socialize, where we communicate among each other. Done? Then what is anthropology? Now, anthropology talks about small societies. It talks about the archaeology. It further talks about human evolution. Now, if you see, anthropology is talking about small societies, archaeology, it's human evolution. It's the time where how beginning of society happened or how the basic evolution pattern of humans started. So we can say the basics of society or a pre-literate society happened in anthropology. So what is the difference between society and anthropology? Now you see, sociology talks about society in general. It covers all aspects of society in general, whereas anthropology is a basic research that is done on a certain society. Now, what are these certain societies or what kind of research? For example, if you want to study the clothing patterns, if you want to study the clothing pattern of, say, South India. Now, when you come to North India, you won't see people wearing dhoti, not people, I would say men's. But in South India, men's are wearing dhoti. So, in order to study the pattern, the clothing pattern, so the anthropologists basically study how this clothing pattern came into that section of society. What was the reason regarding it? Or why is it that people over here prefer this clothing pattern other than any pattern? else than dhoti. So Anthro does a survey on a section of society. Now, when I'm talking about the clothing pattern, here the section of the society would be the South India, and when they're targeting the South India section, then they'll be targeting a particular community to study the ethnicity of that community to understand the behavioral pattern. So we can say that in order to understand the behavioral pattern, anthropologists do the work. Okay, so this was a brief introduction about sociology and anthropology. So anthro, the word itself, study of human evolution. So what they basically do is that they study a small defined or self contained small groups. Okay, so when you know what anthro talks about and what society talks about, you can assimilate the similarities and talk about differences in the pattern of the subjects. So again, let's recall sociology is study of society in large. For example, if I relate it to the current affairs section, India is talking about UCC, that is Uniform Civil Code. Now, UCC on the entire country of India. Now, it is the job of the anthropologist to study the various aspects or the various differences of the small contained groups. Now, when they study the small contained groups or a society which is quite backward, and are not able to come to mainstream society, or they are not able to integrate themselves to the mainstream society, what will lead or what significance or what drawbacks are going to occur to these societies if UCC is implemented. So this is how you have to relate current affairs also with the static portion of your optional. It's very important to understand the static portion. Now here we are studying about sociology and anthropology, their similarities and differences in the subject. So I'm trying to tell you with the example that when if UCC is applied to the entire country of India, how or what are the work of sociologists and anthropologists to study? As in sociology, they will study what will happen among different castes, religion, or the groups. A work of the anthropologist will be to select a group which is quite backward in thinking, backward in various aspects. It can be economical, it can be political, any aspect. So they will study that section of group. They will study this section of or this group, and as per the survey, they will come out with a report telling if UCC is going to help these societies or not, or they are going to integrate the society, or they are going to divulge them. Okay, so this is what basically sociology and anthropology are. So we can say that it anthropology is quantitative study. Quantitative study of data. Now, quantitative study, because when we talk about sociology, they study about the society. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Anthropology is basically qualitative. Sorry, qualitative study, and sociology is basically quantitative. Okay, so it's basically talking about the data, the research, the surveys the groups are performing. Now, anthropology has given multiple theories to sociology, or sociology has drawn various aspects from anthropologists. Okay, so if you go down and study, anthropology talks about fieldworks, survey, analysis, research. So all the quantitative analysis is happening here. Okay. Now, if I want to study about field works or if I want to study about survey analysis, what are these? When you go on further studying sociology, you will hear about chemistry, Nivas, Andrew Winteler. So what they were doing was they were doing for Indology or study of Indian society. During their study, they basically talked about what they basically talked about India and the society, the Indian society, on the basis of their fieldwork. That is, it wasn't based on books or theoretical study. So anthropology basically talks about study of society by viewing them, understanding them, not through book view. They don't emphasize on book view, they emphasize on field view. So if you see various sociologists who have been studying society, and I'm not talking about Indian society in general, I'm talking about when you see French Revolution happened, when you see American Revolution happening, there were a certain section of sociologists who studied sociology by book view. And what would anthropologists do? They will physically go down to these places. They will physically go down to these places. Either they will study the society in sections, again in groups, and then they will conclude by their analysis or through their analysis. So you see the difference? Sociology has actually derived some aspects from anthropology. So when I'm talking about sociology and anthropology, the similarities fact I can say that what sociology is talking about in its field study, this field study is derived from anthro. When sociology is talking about structural functionalism, what is structural functionalism? Now, see, according to structural functionalism, it talks about that every aspect or section of society basically contributes towards development or integration of society. Now, this structural functionalism way itself is derived from anthropology, because anthropology talks about it that every structure of the society basically contributes towards integration of the society. What could be the one aspect that talks about integration of society? Now, see, if I talk about gender roles, men, women. Now, if you see, when I'm talking about men and women, they're opposite genders. Now, according to structural functionalist approach, both men and women contributes toward creation, creation of new life. So this creation of new life is considered as positive function. Now, if I talk about the negative aspect, we can say that because of marriages, the children's if happening or the children that are coming out of marriages, what will happen to the children if the men and women or the parents are not able to do what? Not able to make a perfect compatibility. So the divorce rates happening, the children's, the orphan children's, or the adoption of children's. So this could be one of the negative analysis, and the creation of new life is again the positive analysis. So what sociology, what structural functionalism is in sociology is basically drawn from anthropology. Okay, so even social anthropologists talk about small societies which are relatively unchanging and are lacking in historical data. Now, they say that anthropologists talk about small societies that lack what? That lack historical data. How did they came into existence? So basically, in anthropology, if this is Indian society, if this is where Indian society begins, The sociologists will talk about the forward part, and the anthropologists will dig the historic times. Yes. So this is how we can explain that there are two ideas of Indian society. One is their Indian society, what or how they came into existence, or how things started happening. So we reached a space where we could say that yes, not Indian society, actually society in general. I'm sorry. Or if you want to study Indian society only, then also it's okay. But in general, so if this is society, where we can say here things started happening, sociologists will study this aspect, like what caste will play, what religion will play, faith, rights, liberty. Okay, so sociology is going to play this role. Anthropology is going to dig the prehistoric times. Okay, so this is what anthropologists and sociology links to. There are some differences which have been given in light. They study parts like family and processes. They study society, all their aspects lacking historic records and are unchanging. So they have major influence on the historic records or prehistoric times, like very, very early. Okay, so I've made you understand what anthropology is, what sociology is. So when you further study in detail the books, Harold Longus and all, then you study how or what similarities or what differences are. This was an aspect covered by me. I could give you some example. For example, Malinowski. Now Malinowski, this is a very famous name in sociology. When you start studying, this name will be there, especially in paper two. So basically, he talks about religion theory using anthro methods. Now, what could be anthro methods? For example, um, in a certain section of society, uh, there is this celebrating rain. Celebrating rain, why? Why? Because rain is very important for agriculture perspective. Now, when they celebrate rain, or if they worship rain, or if we today are considering rain as God, so it comes from that aspect, from the primitive societies when rain was worshipped. Now, rain was worshipped in what aspect, or why was it worshipped? It was worshipped for the reason that um, whenever the season was coming or whenever this rainy season was happening, it was good for agriculture. It was good for the crops. So it happened in primitive societies because of this reason. And if today, and anthropologists will say that the reason why we consider them God or why is it happening, it's because of those societies, or it's because of those peoples who started this culture, who started this tradition. So now this culture and tradition got ingrained in the society, and the society slowly, gradually, when started developing, people ingrained it from there. Okay, so Malinowski's religion theory you study in paper two of sociology. Just giving you a brief description because once you start, there's one question that is definitely going to come from this part, that is sociology and other social matter. One question is definitely going to come. So you have to relate the different sciences with sociology. Okay. Now, the other social science that I'm interested in taking is, since I'm live in YouTube and I have no choice because you people are watching it and I don't have any choice of asking you which you want. So, one subject that I enjoy talking about or reading about or learning about is linking sociology with political science. Now, quite interesting. Why? Because political science itself is vast subject. We have a lot of political studies here. How would political science influence sociology, or how is sociology related to political sciences? Definitely very interesting. Now, see, what is political science? Now, according to Marx, Karl Marx, political institutions and organizations are closely linked with economic system and social system. Political institutions and organizations are closely linked with economic system and social systems and social classes as well. So this is what Karl Marx said. So if you see this line that political institutions and organizations are closely linked with economic system and social classes. Now, if I relate this to our society, what are the political institutions or the organizations that are linking with social classes? Now, see, the very first political institutions, organizations, or the very first behavior, what kind of political behavior am I talking about here? Suppose I'm talking about voting pattern or the voting behavior. Now, if you see the voting pattern or the voting rights, now voting is linked with political section. Every citizen should vote. Every citizen has got the right to vote. The voting is such a crucial aspect for development of a society. Why? Because we choose our leaders. Okay, so where is society being linked? Now see, voting pattern and choosing of leader is coming from political aspects. True. How is the voting pattern influenced? How does this influence happens? How is the behavior or the institution affected via politics or social class? Now, let me make it very clear to you people. We people have got voting rights, correct, to choose our leaders. Again done. How these leaders affect the voting pattern? How do they affect the voting pattern? Did they use muscle power? Now, what is muscle power? Forcing somebody to vote for us, or making them vote for a certain leader on gunpoint. So, using of physical power. Okay. Now, what else? Appeasement. One method is appeasement, mass appeasement. Now, what is mass appeasement? Example. For example, right now we are having this topic of making the country Hindu Rashtra. Now, a particular section or a particular religious section of the society will be very much influenced by like having a Hindu Rashtra. Or if somebody is very psychic towards religion, they would definitely get influenced by it. For people who are, very unaffected or having very balanced approach, this topic is definitely not going to interest them because they will talk about facts. They will not talk about appeasement. They will not get appeased so easily. So, for mass appeasement, these leaders might use certain aspects which would hinder the pattern. So you see, talking about religion, talking about caste is definitely going to influence people. So again, a social aspect is influencing the political aspect. Okay, now you'll ask me, okay, this is one aspect, voting aspect. Fine, we understand voting aspect. There are certain people who will vote by getting influenced or by the religion, by getting influenced by the caste system. Then what are the other political aspects? Now, if I talk about our Indian constitution, now why am I saying our Indian constitution? Now see, our Indian constitution is enshrined with FRs, that is fundamental rights. Then we have certain basic features of Indian constitution that couldn't be altered easily. And now what are those aspects? We have socialist, secular, democratic, republic, justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. Okay, justice, justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. So we have got all this from French Revolution, where we talk about equality. French Revolution. Now you see the equality aspect of the political science. Political science talks about equality. No, what equality? See, we have or we have sections in our society. Now, sections as in what we have different caste systems, that is Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudras. Okay, we or our society is actually labeling certain people as untouchables. Now, in order to make these untouchable integrate into the society, we talk about equality so that they won't be discriminated. Now, discrimination is one aspect that is based on society. Any form of discrimination, whether it's based on caste, sex, religion, place of birth, anything, etc. Anything. So all the section of the political science are basically coming from society, because as in society is discriminating between individuals. Now, if we have to culminate this, we came with a constitutional doctrine which could be referred. So nothing is above constitution. So constitution is the pious document. And writing of this constitution is written by some very great names who tried making Indian society, or who want Indian society to be an absolute equal society. So we read or we understood about voting rights. We understood about equality, how equality, this term in political or constitutional doctrine, is linked to society. Okay. What are various other aspects? Well, we can link a lot many aspects, but let's talk about the very famous thing that happened in past, like just not so old, but we have been talking about NRC, National Register of Citizenship. So NRC and CA, Citizenship Amendment Act. So if you see Citizenship Amendment Act, citizenship. What is citizenship? It is actually a political idea which states that a person belongs to particular nation. Okay. Now, but person belongs to a particular nation. So, if we see migration happening, it is disturbing the social pattern of the country. Now, social pattern of the country is getting disturbed. For this, we came with citizenship because we have very limited resources. Now, with limited resources, we have influx of people from various border areas. Now, people are entering the border areas. Now, what will happen? There's a lot of pressure that will happen, or that will be onto the resources, the meager resources, or the lesser resources we have. Now, after this, what will happen? We'll shift towards deficiency of resources. Of course, we are a developing country, and population is one of the issues which we are facing. Though we are having a demographic dividend, but population is one issue that we are facing. So when this population is increasing, currently India is having 1.3 billion population. And when population is increasing, and then we have migrants from border areas. This will hamper the social pattern. So, in order to balance that social pattern, or in order to have that resources well, or in order not to create any disturbance in the society, and what kind of disturbance would be? Disturbance would be based on damaging the fabric of the society. So, once the fabric of society will damage, it will be very difficult to manage the states, to manage the country. So for that we came with a citizenship registrar. So the citizenship will actually legalize the stay of the people in the country, or will provide them with citizenship, will provide them with the recognition that they're belonging to this and this country. Okay, so this is what basically I wanted to tell you about how sociology is linked with other social sciences. I have studied about political science and anthropology, two very great disciples in order to study society and political science together, and sociology and anthropology together. So I hope so you have enjoyed the class. Thank you for your patience.